The second to last escape from Alcatraz is probably one of the most famous and detailed prison escapes of all time that has left us with many unanswered questions. The main one being, did anyone ever successfully escape the rock and make it to freedom? Let's first start with Alcatraz itself. Alcatraz is a maximum security prison just off the coast of San Francisco, California. Previously, the building had been used as a United States military prison, which was used to store criminals of war. However, in 1933, the building and surrounding land was acquired by the United States Department of Justice. After some modifications, it met the requirements to be a top-notch security prison. It had up to 14 cell counts a day, thick walls, high-class steel bars, random shakedowns, and one guard for every 3 inmates, which was lower than any other prison. The building was concrete, and the inmates were led to believe that even if they did somehow manage to escape the prison, due to the freezing icy waters and the strong currents in the bay that surrounded the rock, they wouldn't get very far. The prison held some of the nation's most notorious criminals, and it was known for only having the worst of the worst inmates. However, this didn't stop people from attempting to break free. During the 29 years of the prison's existence, there was a total of 14 attempted escapes involving 36 separate prisoners. 23 of them were recaptured, 6 were shot and killed, 2 drowned, and 5 are still listed as missing to this day. Out of the 14 attempted escapes, only one of them was potentially successful, which is the case that we are all most likely familiar with today. It began on June 11, 1962, when Frank Lee Morris and his brothers John and Clarence Anglin escaped from Alcatraz. Although none of them were murderers, they all had a history of crimes such as bank robberies and drug dealings. They were sent to Alcatraz due to their numerous escape attempts. While at Alcatraz, the 3 men quickly became friends and met another inmate named Alan West. The 4 of them constructed an extraordinarily detailed plan to escape the so-called inescapable prison. The men started their plan in the December of 1961 when they began to collect tools and materials for the job. They found it not to be very challenging as a result of all of them already having jobs in Alcatraz due to good behavior. Frank Lee Morris worked in one of the prison shops making brushes. There he had access to all kinds of materials and tools to aid in escape. John Anglin worked in the clothing room in the prison basement, which he gathered materials needed to survive in the bay. Clarence Anglin worked in the prison barber shop, which allowed him to steal hair, which was an essential part of the men's plan to throw off the guards. Alan West worked on the painting crew in the utility area and figured out how it could be easily accessed from the tiny air vents at the back of each of the prisoners' cells. The prisoners were aware of the difficult conditions they would face once they reached the bay, and prepared life jackets and a raft made out of raincoats that they had stolen from the clothing room. The life jackets and raft were hidden in the Anglin cells, along with a pump to blow up the raft, in which Morris had made from a musical instrument he had stolen from the band room. To prevent suspicion, the Anglins constructed lifelike heads for each man to put under the cover of their bed as a decoy. What helped was the fact that each man had a cell next to each other. The Anglins each had cells B-150 and B-152, and Morris and West had cells with B-138 and B-140. Unlike other attempted escapes, this plan did not rely on grabbing weapons or taking hostages. Rather, it was based on the well-known prison routine and the pure great minds of the escapists. Also, over the course of 6 months, the men slowly chipped away at the vents in each of their cells with spoons and an improvised drill that they had made out of a broken vacuum cleaner. The vents led into the utility shaft in the back of their cells. They did most of the chipping during the 1 hour of the prison's music practice that was held every day, which gave the men a perfect chance for their chipping to go unnoticed. The men would take turns chipping each day. For example, one day John Anglin and Alan West would chip, while Frank Morris and Clarence Anglin would keep watch. The next day they would switch. As soon as the holes were big enough, they crawled through and they set up a workshop in the space above their cells. Another thing the escapees had in their favor was the fact that Alan West was able to work there due to good behavior. One day when West was working, he discovered a duct in the ceiling. This meant that all they had to do was cut around it and push the whole thing out. This would enable them access to the roof. The place where West was working was inside of a guard station. However, West convinced the guards that he needed blankets to keep from damaging the walls while he cleaned and painted the cell block ceiling. The blankets were up for a few months until their escape, and once the police went up to investigate afterwards, they removed the blankets and found all kinds of tools and materials that the men had smuggled into their workshop. This is where the prisoners made their life jackets and the rubber raft made out of raincoats and the small instrument to inflate the raft. This is also where they created the realistic dummy heads that were made out of soap and toilet paper rolls. Since Clarence Anglin worked in the barber shop, he gathered hair clippings which helped make perfect replicas. They then positioned the heads on their pillows and put pillows and towels under their blankets to make it look like there was a human underneath so guards didn't expect anything during their night watch routine. When all the preparation was finished, the men made their escape. Unfortunately for Alan West, he was unable to get out of his hole because he previously thought the guards were suspicious of them a few months before. He covered his hole with plaster, and when the day came, the plaster was very hard to chip off. He then proceeded to tell Morris to go without him and he would try to catch up. The men slowly made their way up into the workshop and onto the roof, where they then slid down a kitchen vent pipe. They then cut through 2 barbed wire fences, inflated their raft, and paddled themselves to either freedom or to their deaths. By this time, West had finally made it through his vent hole, but the men had already gotten off the island and escaped. A few hours later, during the morning routine of everyone standing at their cell bars, the Anglin brothers and Frank did not move a muscle. When the officers tried to wake them, their heads rolled onto the floor and the guards' hearts sank. The massive search then began, and the alarms went off. West was questioned but didn't give much information. No trace of the men was ever found, and the guards presumed them dead. However, many Alcatraz historians say the men planned their escape incredibly well and would not have underestimated the water. Clarence and John's mother had also been receiving cards from unknown locations signed by Clarence and John Anglin on her birthdays years after the escape. Also, both the Anglin brothers and West were very good swimmers, which added to the theory that they did make it. Even after this, there is still little remaining evidence on the Anglin survival, other than this picture taken in 1975 in Brazil, which researchers say could have easily been the Anglin